I'm just kidding. Yo! What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Jack Mallers Show. I am your host, Jack, and you are listening to Mailbag Monday, episode 88. Ladies and gentlemen, today's episode is titled The End of Fiat. Bitcoin's time has come. The trade war is heating up. It's intensifying. China not messing around. Jerome Powell blinked. Money printers go burr. Jamie Dimon getting involved in national security threats. Gold will not stop going up. Bitcoin is telling us a lot of truth through its price action. Before we get started, you lovely boys and girls, I'm talking to you all at a Bitcoin price of $110,680. We're back above $110,000. That puts Bitcoin's market cap at $2.21 trillion. For reference, gold is a $30 trillion asset class at this point. So we're up there, but not anywhere near where we need to be. We got a lot of upside to go. Our all-time high remains $126,160 US dollars. We're about 12% down from the high that we made on October 6th, 2 weeks ago to this very day. And for those that keep track of time in Bitcoin block height, what was the last Bitcoin block mined since I started running my mouth in your ears, you might ask? Well, the answer is 920,007. That is the last Bitcoin block mined before I hit stream. How the hell are you guys doing, man? I love you. I love running this show. Let's fucking do the damn thing, shall we? All right. The end of fiat. Bitcoin's time has come. Chapter 1. China puts the West on death watch. All right. So a lot of what we've been talking about on the show, I don't know, recent months, recent weeks, the trade war at large has centered around the U.S. versus China. And really, it is this hyper-financialized world reserve currency issuer that has hollowed out its industrial base, that doesn't produce anything for themselves anymore. Yes, I'm talking about the United States of America. Hyper-financialized on both coasts. You've got West Coast that builds all the technology in Silicon Valley. They've hyper-financialized in massive concentrations of wealth through technology. And then you've got the East Coast hyper-financialization, which is Wall Street. Hyper-financializing, building financial products, growing our financial markets. The middle of America is dead. It's shot. It's rot. It's the Rust Belt. It's gone old. All of those jobs are in China. Now, China is the opposite. The yuan is always weak, okay? China's economy is the furthest thing from something that you could claim to be robust necessarily. They endure a lot of pain over there, but they are the world's factory. China produces everything for everyone, including the United States. And so you kind of have these two massive states colliding and crashing over a trade war. The U.S., their desire is to persist. The Pax Americana empire, they want to remain the world reserve currency issuer. They want everyone to bow down and buy their debt and finance the lifestyle of the rich and famous American. And China represents everyone else, more or less. It says, fuck that. We're over this whole deal of having to buy your debt, having to get taxed via inflation, having to basically subsidize American exceptionalism. And that is really the trade war. And the middle of the trade war is about rare earths. So first of all, I found this diagram helpful. This is created by the United States of America themselves. And it goes to show how involved Chinese suppliers are in our military. Okay. So if you look at the far right, you can see Chinese supplier count. Let me move my head out of the way here. Look at this technology. Go to the bottom left. Yeah, sure. And in the far left, you can see the system. So we've got Tomahawks, JSSMs. You can see the contractor, the subcontractor. The point is Chinese suppliers in U.S. air-launched armament supply chains. This was as soon as 2 years ago. They're in everything. And so one of the biggest pieces of friction is that China makes everything for the United States. They make all of our weapons, all of our technology, your iPhone, your desk, your computer, your clothes, your cars, everything, and not the high level. If you drive a Tesla, Elon Musk technically made that. But who made the chip inside the Tesla? China did, okay? So this graphic goes to show just how reliant we are down to our military. Because one thing, and we'll get into it, that the United States has not been shy about is that if people disagree with the United States, they have no problem dropping a bomb on your head. As an American, I am not proud of the fact that that has been part of our strategy over the last, I was going to say decade, couple decades, maybe the last century. But listen, I'm not left, I'm not right, I'm not up, I'm not down, I'm orange, I'm Bitcoiner, I'm here to tell you the truth, okay? So, we go on. China tightened their rare earth restrictions. They keep tightening it. If Trump wants to play trade war games, China's going to say, you do not have your military anymore to threaten us because your military is us. We build your military. We build the very lifestyle and the very tools that you need to operate everything that you know. And so, Donald Trump, you have no leverage. Put the gun down, the proverbial gun, not the actual gun. You don't have an actual gun because I manufacture your actual guns. We control the supply chain, not just trade. The entire West, Europe, the US, the UK, I mean, Japan is physically east, but they're part of the West. The entire West industrial base is exposed to China. And so this is from CNBC, how China's rare earth restrictions could disrupt the U.S. defense industry and reignite a trade war. China will not allow the export of rare earth minerals for use by foreign militaries under restrictions announced last week. Rare earth magnets are crucial components in U.S. weapons, such as the F-35 warplane, Tomahawk missiles, we just saw that, drones. The U.S. relies on rare earth imports from China, so on and so forth. And we know from last episode that this was a reaction to Trump, the trade war, and Trump's tariffs. Okay. Now, I want to make you guys aware of something. We talked about this over the summer on an episode. The United States fired 25% of its best missiles, missile interceptors, in almost 2 weeks, a little under 2 weeks. It's going to take us a decade to replace them. This was during the Israel conflict. The recent 12-day war between Israel and Iran exposed a critical supply gap in America's most advanced missile defenses. The U.S. reportedly fired between 100 and 150 THAAD interceptors, costing them nearly $2 billion to help defend Israel, depleting as much as a quarter of its entire stockpile. The crisis is magnified by the fact that the United States only produces about 12 of these interceptors per year, meaning it would take over a decade to replace what they used in the 12 days. This is unsustainable burn, helps explain President Trump's hesitancy to send similar advanced systems to Ukraine. Okay? Let me translate that for you guys. The United States cannot be violent to enforce what it wants anymore. I was trying to research before the show, how long has the West been the dominant military in the world? I think it's about 500 years. So when I get on this show and I say we're living through a monetary regime change, we're living through the fall of an empire, we're living through the transition of military power. I know every podcast you listen to, they're going to sell you what that they're talking about is the biggest thing in the world and it's the craziest thing in the world. And this time, this moment, right now, it's never going to be this big and this important. But God, I hate to be that guy. But guys, what we're witnessing is huge. China is literally disarming the United States and effectively saying, in more or less words, you aren't going to bomb anyone. You cannot produce enough weapons to enforce people to use your pieces of shit fiat currency. You're going to have to reindustrialize, get back to proof of work, build stuff for yourself if you don't want to rely on us, and we're going to do it peacefully. Okay? Because I go on, this was yesterday from the Financial Times. Breaking news. Donald Trump urged Zelensky to accept Russia's terms for ending its war in a volatile White House meeting on Friday, warning that Vladimir Putin had said he would destroy Ukraine if it did not agree. Let me go back, guys. Let me go back to this slide. This unsustainable burn rate helps explain President Trump's hesitancy to send similar advanced systems to Ukraine. The U.S. had a diet proxy war with Russia via Ukraine and lost. The United States got outproduced by Russia. Russia and China outproduce the United States when it comes to military. The United States literally is disarmed by BRICS, by China. They cannot bully people with bombs anymore. Trump literally pulled Zelensky to the side and said, listen, brother, this post-1971 dollar, this post-World War II U.S. war regime, military-industrial complex, yeah, bro, this shit is over. Here's my recommendation to you. Shake Putin's hand and sign whatever deal he offers, because we can't help you. Guys, this is the first time in 500 years the West can't enforce itself via military dominance. You want to know why these rare earths are so important? And you know what's funny is the way politicians spin things. Because now the new narrative is that Trump is a peace president, which, don't get me wrong. First of all, every time I do these episodes, yo, don't talk shit about Trump. I'm not talking shit about Trump. I'm just trying to be honest and truthful. Be one guy on the internet that isn't bowing down to some political beliefs or some paid advertisement. I'm the most unbiased, truth-seeking fucking 31-year-old in the world. I'm not shitting on Trump. I'm not cheering for Trump. I'm just reporting my own thoughts. So is the fact that Trump's a peace president, is that something to laugh at? No, of course. I love peace. I don't think there should be any human violence. I think governments have gotten way too big. We shouldn't be flaunting nuclear weapons in each other's face. Everyone chill the fuck out, go to the beach, stay humble, stack sats, do something productive for those around you. That's what I think. However, the fact that politicians are they're so opportunistic to take a narrative and spin it positively. This is from Howard Lutnick, tweeted this last week. When history is written, President Trump won't just be remembered as a political figure. He'll be remembered as the greatest peacemaker in modern history. The same people who mocked him will be forced to admit they were wrong. The peace president. But if you follow all of the trade war, if you follow the rare earth drama, if you follow what China is doing to the United States, Trump doesn't have a choice. Whoever's sitting in Washington, D.C. is a peacemaker, quote unquote. China has the West by the gonads. Kid show. But no, the guy's the peace president, right? Don't believe politicians, man. So we go on, okay? I want to continue to show you guys, because here's the thing. The United States, the White House, Washington, the mainstream media, they've convinced all your friends and family or the people that you're standing next to on the train on your commute to work that the United States has the leverage here, that the United States is calling the shots, that we get to tell China what to do, that we get to tell BRICS how to act. And I've been saying on this show over and over and over again, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. And that's okay. We don't need to be the conquering empire that bosses everyone around, bullies them with bombs, and shoves fiat inflation down their throat. In fact, I think this version of America that we're living in right now is the most un-American version of America that I'm aware of. We need to get back to America. Equal rights, equal opportunity, democracy, freedom. Who cares? Let China be China, right? But the point is, whether the government is lying to us or they're this incompetent to think they have leverage, I don't know. Both are dangerous. So this was last week. China's Wingtech says Dutch court freezes control of Nexperia amid national security dispute. Wingtech, so China has control of this company that makes very important chips, okay? Dutch company. Dutch court freezes their control of the company, okay? Now, what really went on? It's from Bloomberg. EU considers forced tech transfers for Chinese investments, okay? When you pull on the thread, what came out in court is that the Dutch seizure of the company Nexperia was because the United States told Europe to do it. Nexperia faces export restrictions from US and China. The Dutch government seized Nexperia over tech transfer fears. Nexperia negotiating with both governments to resolve the issue. A Dutch seizure of Chinese-owned computer chip maker Nexperia came after rising U.S. pressured the company, a court ruling released on Tuesday showed, underscoring how the firm has been caught in the crossfire between Washington and Beijing. So the United States is trying to get leverage. They're trying to group together their allies. Hey, Europe, shut down China's access to this chip maker. Let's show them who's boss. Let's stick it to the man. We're tired of this. We're MAGA. We're Donald Trump. We're the U.S. We got the leverage. We're the tough guys in the arena. The next day, this was October 13th. Technically, this Reuters article is tagged October 14th. October 14th, 2025, China and the rest of the world finds out that the U.S. tapped Europe on the shoulder and said, take their chips from them and show them who's boss and tell them to stop threatening us with these rare earth restrictions. Literally 5 hours later, October 14th at 4 o'clock, 5 hours later, I quote, China puts export controls on Nexperia after Dutch takeover. Chipmaker Nexperia, a subsidiary of China's Wingtech technology and a major supplier of mature chips for the automotive and consumer electronics sector, announced on Tuesday that it has been banned by the Chinese Ministry of Commerce from exporting products made in China, including those produced by its subcontractors, after the Dutch government took over the company using a Cold War-era law to secure Europe's chip supply. Nexperia said it is seeking an exemption from this export ban, which could affect Dutch access to its chips. The company operates an 80,000 square meter assembly site near Hong Kong, as well as fabrication, assembly, and testing facilities in Germany, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Britain. The Dutch government's intervention resulted in the suspension of CEO Zhang, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, he's Chinese, founder of Wingtech, with CFO Stefan Tilger appointed as the interim CEO. Last month, the Trump administration expanded U.S. sanctions to subsidiaries and blacklisted companies, including Wingtech, which was added to the U.S. So 5 hours later, the U.S. says, haha, China, we're here to negotiate. I'm Trump. I'm MAGA. We're going to stick it to you. 5 hours later, China says, I'm putting the entire European automotive industry on death watch. Watch your mouth. Don't talk to me like that, or the entire European automotive industry will collapse. This comes out that day. European car makers fear for production in dispute over chipmaker Nexperia. BMW and Volkswagen were the only two to say that their production has not yet been affected. This was from this is the Automotive Council of Europe. I think it's Automotive Council European Association. We are deeply concerned by potential significant disruptions to European vehicle manufacturing if the interruption of Nexperia chip supplies cannot be immediately resolved. On October 10th, Automobile manufacturers and their suppliers received notice from Nexperia outlining a sequence of events that results in them no longer being able to guarantee delivery of their chips to the automotive supply chain. So these are chips that make the car drive, okay? Because here's the thing. People say, no, I buy American cars. I buy Ford. No, I buy cars from Elon. I'm not exposed to China. No, guys, this is why you listen to this show, so that you can get the truth. We're all exposed to China. Go past the logo on the car. Who makes the chip? Who makes the military bombers? Who is the world's factory? Who industrialized over the last 40 years while America did fuck all and printed money? We're all exposed. Nexperia is an important high-volume supplier of semiconductors that are often used in the electronic control units of vehicle electrical systems, for example. Without these chips, European automotive suppliers cannot build the parts and components needed to supply vehicle manufacturers, and this therefore threatens production stoppage. China literally said, that was cute. I'm going to blow up one of the biggest industries in Europe, making cars for the world. Take it back and say you're sorry. And here's the thing, guys. Take Nexperia and replace it with Amazon, Apple, Tesla, Google. You don't think Xi Jinping called Trump or is going to look Trump in the eye in this meeting and say, did you see what I just did to Europe? You gave him really bad advice. You play nice, or I will do the same to the industries valuable to you. Because boy, would it be a shame if all of a sudden Tesla, Amazon, who knows what's going on with AWS right now? So again, who has the leverage? Remember when we were first going to cut our way out of this? That didn't work. And then remember when tariffs were going to pay for everything? Nah, it doesn't look like it, does it? It doesn't look like we are going to tell anyone what to do. It doesn't look like we have enough bombs and planes to go bully anybody into subsidizing the $37 trillion worth of debt full of mistakes and idiocracy that we've piled up over the last 40 years. It looks like China, here's the hilarious thing, and I get into it at the end, I'm not a China fan. I'm not a fan of the CCP at all. I think it's very important America's getting its bell rung so that we can compete with them in a way that's prosperous. I am not a China fan. However, China wants hard money. China wants peace. It looks like China said, be careful running your mouth. Be careful threatening us. We are going to do this peacefully, and we are going to do it with hard money. We are not going to do it with bombs and fiat. Or else, we will put restrictions on the very materials that are needed to run your economy, to support jobs, to support defense. We will take it all and watch the West collapse and burn. So we'll get into it, but what does this mean? The U.S. has to reindustrialize. The U.S. is not going to bully anyone in the front in this bill. The U.S. has we have gone so far down the fiat. We are such fiat maximalists, us, the United States. No proof of work. No low time preference. We don't do anything, sit on our butt for the last 40 years and print money and hyper financialize to trick and confuse people with all these levered derivative bond market bullshit products to continue to kick the can down the road. One day, the chickens come home to roost. Today is that day, guys. We don't have the military leverage. We don't have the industrial leverage. We don't have the negotiating leverage. We're going to have to print a bunch of money, unwind from being the world reserve currency, and get back to proof of work and living from the work that we do for ourselves. This is the end of fiat as we know it. The end of fiat as we know it. And the beginning of something different. Now, us Bitcoiners think Bitcoin's going to be a part of that. We'll see. I'll get into that. Let's listen to our boy Scotty B, who's been cracking me up over the last week. Let's listen to what he said on Fox about China and rare earths.
We have lots of levers that we can pull for products that they need that could be equally damaging. We don't want to damage their economy. We don't believe that they want to damage ours, but they are a command and control economy, and they are going to neither command nor control us. And we're going to assert sovereignty, so are the Western allies. And part of this investment boom that we're seeing is President Trump wanted to reshore, and part of the reshoring is strategic. So we don't want to decouple with China. I don't believe they want to decouple, but this rare earth export control is a sign of decoupling. We have lots of levers.
All right, politicians are interesting, right? They talk very carefully. It's very, very dangerous to go on TV when you're Scott Bessent. You have to thread the needle. So what is he actually saying? We don't want to decouple with China. They don't want to decouple with us. What does that mean? It's very disarming. It's, hold on, okay. We got caught. We told Europe to confiscate your chip company, tell the Dutch government to play slime ball. You caught us. In 5 hours, you destroyed the European car manufacturing industry across the entire region. Please don't do that to Amazon. Please don't do that to Tesla. Please don't do that to Meta. Please don't do that to Google. Please don't do that to NVIDIA. Please. We're sorry. We want to work together, right? You don't want to kill us. We don't want to kill you. Come on. But also, we have to reindustrialize. You guys picking up what he's putting down? This is big. The quiet part is being said out loud now, guys. Because remember, it wasn't about reindustrializing this whole time. It was, no, we're going to cut our way out of it. No, tariffs are going to do, all this investment's going to come. China is going to fund all the factories we're going to build. You see how the goalposts are changing just a little bit, but very important how they change. Very important how they change. This is a different tone from Scott Bessent. Very different tone. He used to get on TV and say, we have all the leverage. I didn't hear him say that once. Did you? Bessent hit the newswire with, China can't be trusted with the global supply chain. Then bang, right after that, next one. Perhaps China Vice Commerce Minister went rogue. Bang, another one. If China aims to be unreliable, the world must decouple. Where on this 5 stages of grief are we? I would say we started in denial. Would you guys agree with me? We have all the leverage. What? Oh, China. They could outproduce us in weapons. No, we're the United States. You sure about that? Did anyone check in on that assumption? No, tariffs. The difference between making America great and where America is today is just this tariff thing. Can't believe no one thought of it. You sure about that? So first it was denial. I would say now, Bessent hitting the newswire, China can't be trusted with the global supply chain. Yeah, I would say we've reached anger. I would say Besant has supposedly punched 2 people. Supposedly he got in a physical altercation with Elon Musk, and he got in a physical altercation with Pulte, the head of housing or whatever. Told him to shut the fuck up and punched him in the face. I would say we're at anger now. Then we'll get to bargaining. Trump will go to China and say, okay, I'm sorry. Just give me the rare earths. I'm sorry. We're going to have to print all the money, deal with tons of inflation, a lot of societal distress. But just give me the rare earths. We'll go back home and get to work. And then I think it'll be depression where people are like, shit. It turns out when you just lose $37 trillion doing fuck all, going to war, we spent $9 trillion in the Middle East bombing people. What did we get for that? You see, here's the thing, guys. There is a loss. This is how I like to explain it. There is a loss. That loss has to be realized. Look around. Someone has to lose to the tune of $37 trillion. Because we borrowed a bunch of money. We borrowed from our future. We borrowed from our kids. And we did nothing with it. We have nothing to show for it. We can't make our own military equipment. We can't produce our own chips. We have nothing. I read stories and news articles that China is building new bridges in months. There was a bridge that collapsed in Seattle. They think it might be done in 2035. 10 years. We can't do anything. And by the way, none of us know how to do anything. When you print money and you become the world reserve currency issuer and your job is to export a printed pieces of paper and import all the real stuff, we have no craftsmanship. If we wanted to make rare earths, which I'll get into in a second, we don't even know how. I walked through Chicago this morning. I'm thinking about this episode. I walked through Chicago and I look at these massive buildings and I think of all the people that have full-time jobs in these massive buildings. How many massive buildings are there? There's this giant skyline in front of me right here. Look at all these humans working all day. What the hell are they doing? They're all accountants? There's a building full of people doing taxes? Nobody knows how to do rare earths. Nobody knows how to manufacture anything. Nobody knows how to make chips. And I stick to my prediction. I think manual labor craftsmanship will be the new software engineer. If you want to make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in income and you're young and you want career upside, it's going to be getting back to building real things. And all of the accountants and the software engineers and the lawyers are going to get displaced by AI. What happened to blue collar is going to happen to white collar, and blue collar is going to come back. And then we'll get to acceptance, and everyone will be like, all right, this is reasonable. Turns out printing money out of thin air and pretending like we don't have to pay the consequences. Yeah, in hindsight, that was a pretty dumb idea. Yeah, I mean, now that you say it out loud, yeah, we probably shouldn't have done that. But I'd say right now we are entering anger. That's my 2 cents. Oh, why is my screen not updating? What the heck? Hold on, sorry guys. My streaming. Hey, not a professional podcaster. Bear with me. Let me refresh this bad boy. My slides aren't updating. Screen capture. Bang. There we go. What do you guys see now? You should see So I'll delete this one. Oh no, I don't want that either. Yeah, okay, this is working now. Screen capture. We want window. Bang. Bang. Amazing. Sorry about that. Not a professional podcaster. Just a 31-year-old that looks like he's 12 yelling in his house by himself. Not a professional over here. Sorry. All right. Let me get my face back in the top right. And we go on. Okay, next chapter. Warp speed, industrial policy. So as a reaction to all that, sorry, I had to get all that out. It just bothers me that we read like, we have all the leverage. We're getting our ass handed to us right now by the East. So as a reaction to all of this, all this rare earth drama, it's been shaking up the markets. Trump's been tweeting nonstop, moving Bitcoin up and down, up and down. Now we're getting action. Besant comes out and says, Besant on supply chains, rare earths, going to do equivalent of Operation Warp Speed to tackle processing. Whoa. Do you guys remember what Warp Speed was? Yeah, bringing you back to COVID. Operation Warp Speed was about the vaccines during COVID. So this is wartime terminology. Besant is saying, when you face a non-market economy like China, you need industrial policy. So he is saying the government is leaning into industrial policy. We have to start building shit ourselves. No one else is going to pay for it. We'll get into how it's going to be financed because you know our boy Jerome Powell came from his slumber and said, I'll print the money, Scotty B. I got your back. And then Besant, I mean, he was on fire over this last week. Trump needs emergency powers to protect the United States economy. So if you guys want to know, okay, is what Jack's saying really true? I mean, because surely if we're in this chokehold with China, we're realizing we've lost military power. We've lost the ability to stand on our 2 feet. The post-1971 dollar is now destroying whatever is left of the United States of America. We got to start building stuff. Then Scott Besant should probably come out and say something, right? Yeah, he did. Besant on supply chains, rare earths, going to do the equivalent of Operation Warp Speed. All hands on deck. I mean, you guys remember COVID, right? We were all literally locked in our homes, and they were like warp speeding vaccines to inject in everyone's body. So, okay, we're entering another Operation Warp Speed. Do you guys remember how much money was printed during that whole COVID thing? Do you guys remember that? So the fact that they're using this language and they're drawing that analogy, no, it is not an accident, my good friends. Oh, and when you know shit's getting real when they tap our boy Jamie into the game. They say, Jamie, put your jersey on. You got to get in there. And what does he do? JP Morgan to plow $1.5 trillion. Yes, with a T, not billion with a B, trillion with a T. That's a lot of commas. $1.5 trillion into U.S. security industries. JP Morgan Chase and Co. will funnel $1.5 trillion into industries that bolster U.S. economic security and resiliency over the next 10 years. The campaign will invest in companies and hire bankers and other professionals in sectors such as rare earth minerals. Wow, no way. Who could have guessed that? Not us at the Jack Mallard Show. And defense, in aerospace and energy technology. JP Morgan estimated that the effort will add as much as $500 billion to what it would have provided anyway, and will involve funding that the firm facilitates, including handling stock and bond sales and arranging third-party financing. This was my favorite quote from our boy JD, Jamie Dimon. It has become painfully clear that the United States has allowed itself to become too reliant on unreliable sources of critical minerals, products, and manufacturing, all of which are essential for our national security. Dimon said in a statement Monday announcing the bank's target, "We need to act now." Guys, you have the U.S. Treasury Secretary. You have the CEO of the biggest bank, which is effectively nationalized, the too big to fail bank, the fortress balance sheet, the Jamie Dimon. You have Scott Besant and Jamie Dimon come out at the same time and say, we are entering wartime financing to reindustrialize this country. This is Operation Warp Speed. COVID 2.0, run it back. This is a national emergency. We need to act now. And you're telling me Bitcoin topped? Have you lost your skull? Did you get dropped on your head as a kid? Guys, We are just getting started, ladies and gentlemen. We are just getting started. Next slide. So, the thing that I want to, the one point I want to make on, we're going now into this reindustrialization phase of MAGA, of this administration, and of America as a whole. As I've said, this is bipartisan. The Democrats win the next election. It doesn't matter. We have to reindustrialize. The post-$71 is over. Fiat as we know it is over. We're going back to neutral reserve assets. We have to go back to proof of work. We have to start making our own stuff again. None of this is a debate. All of this is facts. We're living through it today. The one point I want to make to you guys is we can't manipulate time, and how the hell are we going to pay for it? Because as Bitcoiners, this is what really matters to us. Not even as Bitcoiners. Fuck that. As humans. Governments inflating our time and energy away, our hard work. Because guys, again, money is your time and energy in an abstracted form. The money that you have is a reflection of you, your contributions to those around you, right? When you get up and you go to work, listen, you don't go to the beach every day. You don't lay around and drink milkshakes. You don't just lounge by the pool. Everyone listening to this gets up and does shit for those around them, creates value, produces something to the market. And in return for that, you get money. And so therefore, money is your time and energy in an abstracted form. In a perfect world, the money that you've earned is a direct reflection of how valuable you've contributed to society. And so for someone to be able to debase the money means by proxy, they're debasing you. It is the most disrespectful act, I think, in human history, fiat. Because you are looking another man in the eyes in devaluing them. Because by devaluing the money, you are by proxy devaluing them. The commute they had to take to work, the long hours they put in, the stress they endured, the sacrifice. They're not with their family. They're not with their friends. They're not on the beach. They are busting their ass to contribute value to those around them, contributing real time and real energy. And for a government to say, fuck you, we value you and your integrity and your contributions at zero. That's what we care about. So how bad is it? How much money are they going to print? And how long is this going to take? That's the point I want to make. Okay? Because look, why does this keep doing that? Sorry, it froze again. Because my dad told me this, guys. This is one of my favorite quotes about not being able to print time. It takes 8. One day he looked over to me and he said, you know, the United States government has the false idea that they can print anything when they can only print money. They can't print time. They can't print energy. He said, someone has to tell them that it takes 18 years to make an 18-year-old, you know? I love that quote. It takes 18 years to make an 18-year-old. If you want to reindustrialize, you want to train people on how to produce rare earths. You want to train people on how to manufacture chips. You want to bring blue collar back. We're in a population decline right now because of the fucked up monetary policy that you've allowed to persist for decades. So we're in a population decline. Who's going to be doing all this? We need to start having kids again. We need to train them. We need to reorder policy. We need to deregulate. This is going to take years, decades. My estimate is the soonest the United States can reindustrialize to the capacity to where in which we're happy is 10 years. I think by 2035, maybe we're producing rare earths that will satisfy our appetite. And it's one of my favorite quotes from my dad. Someone's got to tell these guys, it takes 18 years to make an 18-year-old. You can't print those. You can't print 18-year-olds that are out in the rare earth farm mining rare earths. No, you have to create a healthy, prosperous society where people want to have kids. And then those kids have to be raised properly with good morals and principles, hardworking work ethic. And then you have to train them and you have to deregulate and you have to create a safe way for us to reindustrialize without polluting the cities, without having everyone walking around wearing masks on their face like China. So this is from the Wall Street Journal. Fortifying America's Pacific front line is getting expensive and difficult. Why am I showing you guys this article? At a U.S. Army post just a few miles from tourist hotels and tropical beaches, troops here are testing an advanced 360-degree radar, just one piece of what is slated to be an $8 billion system to defend this island from a Chinese missile attack. The defensive shield taking shape is part of a fundamental shift by the U.S. military. The Pentagon is transforming Guam, a U.S. territory closer to Beijing than Honolulu, into an anchor of its strategy in the Pacific. The goal, military officials say, is to deter China's increasingly powerful military from using force to take over Taiwan. Okay, so we're all familiar with that story. The self-ruled island that Beijing claims as its own, and to show the U.S. is ready to fight. The project is costly and logistically difficult and must contend with a Chinese arsenal that now features upgraded versions of the DF-26, a missile known as the Guam Killer. Now, this is the best part. You guys ready for the kicker? The Pentagon says its new missile defense system, slated for 16 sites around Guam by the 2030s. What, you guys thought that we were going to launch it in December? No. It's going to take years, ladies and gentlemen, decades to reindustrialize this country. And so the United States has a choice they have to make. The question is, how long is this going to take and how much money are they going to have to print to do it? The end is clear. Bitcoin and gold are going to go up so much, people are going to be shocked. In fact, it gets so dangerous to talk about super cycle this, super cycle that, this cycle's different, because then you always go back and you look like an idiot. But I'm this close to calling for a super cycle. I don't know if I've ever been more bullish. I don't think this bull run is going to end until Trump is out of office. The amount of money these guys are going to have to print for a sustained period of time, the fiat as we know it is over, guys. We're talking about years worth of reindustrializing, printing money. Who's paying for all this stuff? The U.S. government is broke. We run twin deficits. We don't have cash flow to pay for things. Who is going to finance what China? By the way, it took China 40, not 14, 40 years to be the superpower they are today. Okay. Another example. Oh my God, what am I doing wrong? Sorry, last time. I'm just not going to touch it. But to keep going, another example I have, and for those listening on the podcast waves, it won't let me go to my next slide. It keeps freezing. I must be doing something wrong. I'll have to look into it and make sure it never happens again. But for now, a little frustrating. So next, from the Wall Street Journal, South Korea ordered 12 new vessels from a U.S. shipyard. Now comes the hard part. And this is another example article. And guys, I can give you dozens of these articles. So South Korea ordered 12 new vessels from the U.S., okay? And the hard part, you're like, okay, well, now comes the hard part. What's the hard part? The hard part is, how do we actually make them? And it says, 2 ships on order will actually just be made in South Korea. This article ends up explaining that the U.S. doesn't have the manufacturing capacity. The U.S. shipyard couldn't do it. So they ordered 12 new vessels from a U.S. shipyard, and they're actually just going to be made in South Korea because the United States literally doesn't have the capacity. So for anyone, and by the way, the government's going to come out and say, we're going to fix this in a year. We're going to fix this in 2 years. No, they're not. Just read the news. All these special projects, it'll be ready in the 2030s. Oh yeah, well, we were going to build these new vessels for South Korea, but we actually couldn't build them. Right? This is Marjorie Taylor Greene. America is rich in critical rare earth minerals, and now we must be able to responsibly mine them. Okay, they're saying the quiet part out loud, guys, in order to not only compete with China, but also for our independence and national security. President Trump and his admin are working to accomplish this. However, there are many obstacles such as lawsuits, environmental, and permitting issues blocking our ability to mine and process our own rare earth minerals. So I'm talking about the fact that you can't print 18-year-olds, that our military is working on massive products like keeping China from taking over Taiwan. And we're like, hopefully it's ready in the 2030s, 5 years minimum. Meanwhile, I haven't even gotten to the fact that literally we aren't regulatory allowed to do rare earths. Like this giant government, way too big, this bureaucratic pile of trash, literally isn't in a position to support us reindustrializing. We're going to have to go to Congress. We're going to have to deregulate. We're going to have to change laws. We're going to have to survive political turnover. What if the Democrats win and they have a slightly different plan? Or what if the Republicans win again, but this guy disagreed with Trump on this little thing? Guys, if you think that this is a 1 year quick money print and then we solved it, we're a year away. We're a few tariffs, Elon's Doge, and 1 year of like really bringing it hard on reindustrializing. I have another thing coming for you. This is decades away. Here's my prediction, and I don't know how much of a hot take, how out of bounds this prediction is. It's going to take way longer than anyone thinks. They're going to have to print money way more than anyone thinks. It's going to cost way more than anyone thinks. Bitcoin and gold are going to go up way more than anyone thinks. Round up to the upside to be safe. Okay. And now to the money printing. How are we financing this? So Bitcoin had a little, it's been a little choppy. It's had a little oopsie. As I said in the beginning of the show, it's about 12% from its all-time high 2 weeks ago. And everyone online, like the sentiment is so bad. Everyone's freaking out, thinking the bull market's over. I can't be more bullish. I literally think we have years of money printing, reindustrializing, and unwinding from the fiat regime that we know as, and Bitcoin's going to be in an open competition against gold to be the de facto money for humanity. I am bullish as kid show. So I wanted to put out this tweet really to calm everyone down. I said, remember, Bitcoin is the most sensitive to liquidity. It moves first. It's a truth machine. Bitcoin on a Friday night tanking is telling us something. It's telling us there's something broken in the financial system. Liquidity is off. The fiat system is failing. Okay. And you want Bitcoin to be the most sensitive to liquidity because we want it to be the best expression of currency debasement. We want it to be the best performer on the other side of the money printer. When you're the most sensitive to liquidity, it goes both ways. Yes, you react on a Friday night when the stock market can't because it's closed and when gold doesn't because it's a rock. But that means if they're going to print a ton of money, and this is the end of fiat as we know it, Bitcoin's going to be the best performer. So I said, yields are puking, spreads blowing out, the banks are stressed, and I gave some images and some data to support that. But Bitcoin is working because it smells trouble. When they're forced to print, and this whole show is about the fact that they are, it'll move first again and outperform everything. Now, Bitcoin is back above 110. Why is that? Oh my gosh, this thing. Thank you guys for being loyal and just bearing with me here. It just keeps freezing. Maybe it's just too many browser tabs. So I want to play you guys this from Nick from the Bitcoin layer because Bitcoin did smell trouble. It smelled real trouble. There is a lack of reserves and liquidity in the financial system. And that's why we heard from Jerome Powell, this is exactly why we now know of all the money printing that they just announced and about to do. But I want to play this for you guys here. Let me just play it. I'll work on setting up the podcast.
Is it possible that this 14 basis point spread of SOFR to IORB is something that we should get used to in the middle of the month now or at the end of the month, that we're going to have these higher repo rates structurally and higher repo spreads? I don't know. And I would honestly fade that narrative. I would fade it pretty hard, meaning I believe you are entering reserve scarcity right now. It's right in front of your eyes. What is one of the things that I've been writing about for a couple years with QT? Eventually, QT will have to stop and reverse on a sheer GDP basis, meaning that as GDP rises at 6 to 7% nominally every year, the amount of reserves in the system that you need, the quantity of reserves, has to expand. There are a couple things there. And the most important part of this is the amount of treasuries in the market. Treasuries in the market, if they are growing and growing in quantity, which we know there's so many treasury bills being issued right now, those bills have to be funded in the repo market to be absorbed by the banking system and the money market fund complex. If the repo market cannot fund those bills, you have a funding crisis. It happens really quickly. Oh my God, all of a sudden, there's another 100 billion in bills that need to be financed in the repo market, and there's not another 100 billion in the money market funds that can just pour over into the repo market. So where do we go? Knock, knock, Jamie Dimon. We call up JP Morgan and we say, hey, will you lend me your reserves, Jamie, tonight? And Jamie says, no. Why, Jamie, won't you lend me your reserves? And Jamie says, because I don't think that there are enough. I want to keep my reserves. I will need them for interbank payments. I will need them to buy bills for JP Morgan's balance sheet. And if JP Morgan is not lending its reserves, what happens? This red line goes up. The repo spread goes up to reserve balances. You have to think of this red line, this 14 basis point spread, as when will Jamie answer the phone and say, yes, you can borrow my reserves? If it keeps going higher, it means that JP Morgan is not lending that.
And so, I mean, Nick is a former bond trader. He's brilliant. Everyone should check out the Bitcoin Layer. He obviously speaks to a specific audience that implies, you know enough about financial markets. So some of that may have been foreign to you guys. But the point is, there's scarcity in bank reserves, that these banks, so regional banks, are down materially versus the too big to fail banks. Banks are in trouble. Reserves are scarce. And what he's talking about is interbank lending to meet requirements. And what happens is if banks can't meet requirements and just financial markets can't meet requirements, then risk sells off. You guys know this term risk off, right? And people say, well, Bitcoin's buckled. It's coupled in with risk, right? The stock market in Bitcoin, that's risk on. And when risk comes off, those things sell off. What does that mean? It means when there is funding crisis, like there was, and I'm telling you guys, Bitcoin smelled blood because there was blood. The reason that there was a crisis is because there were scarce reserves at the bank. And these things sell off. And so Bitcoin was smelling the fact that risk was coming off, liquidity was extremely tight, and there was borderline a crisis in the repo market. So that is what happened. Oh my gosh. I'm frozen again. I'm just going to start closing a ton of these tabs. I feel bad. This episode's dragging a little bit because I'm frozen. But we're going to plow through it. Thank you to the loyal and faithful. I will obviously need to figure this out so it doesn't keep happening. But thank you guys for staying with me. Let me relaunch this. Oh, wow. Look at me. It got really dark. Sun went down. So Bitcoin smelled the fact that there was a liquidity crisis. And that's what it was reacting to. What we got immediately from the Fed and Jerome is, there we go. I think I just had too many tabs, I assume, is what I will learn to not do again. I'm just too pumped up, man. I'm juiced. We're living through literally like monetary history. We have a chance to be the change we want to see. I just want to tell you guys all the information and rant forever, but I probably should stop doing that. So anyways, market started to freak out. Reserves got scarce. Guys, think of Bitcoin like a truth machine. It can't lie to you. It's the only real free market. And so don't be mad at it on a Friday night when it goes down. If you need Bitcoin's price to go up, you're too levered. You're too reliant on it. Stack sats and chill. Be humble. Relax. Go to the beach. Don't live a lifestyle you cannot afford. Okay? And just understand that Bitcoin's trying to talk to you. It's telling you something. And so what do we get immediately over the last week because of this liquidity crisis that was brewing? Powell says Fed may stop shrinking balance sheets in the month ahead. Now, all of a sudden, Jerome Powell and the Fed comes out and says, it is wartime financing. We need to reindustrialize this country. Someone has to pay for it. Here comes the money printer. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell signaled that the central bank may stop shrinking its balance sheet in the coming months, so no more QT, and some form of QE is coming. Fed's Powell says the end of balance sheet drawdown process may be nearing. QT endgame gains urgency as the Fed's reverse repo nears zero. So this is a part from the article that I thought was relevant. The reverse repo facility has largely existed to mop up excess liquidity the Fed created during the pandemic, and now it has been effectively drained out. So this facility that was used for liquidity is gone. We've ran through it all. They need to print more money. They need to print more money. And Bitcoin was telling us that. It was smelling it. Just again, think of it like a truth machine, the only free market that could be honest with you. The stock market's not a free market. The gold market's not a free market. It's freer than the stock market, but it's not free like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a truth machine, okay? The further the reserves fall, the more likely liquidity scarcity could emerge with little warning and rattle money markets, in turn complicating the Fed's ability to keep its monetary policy interest rate target where it wants to be, okay? And so now gets me to the last chapter, which is really what's next. What's next and Bitcoin over gold, okay? So this is a little bit of a weird idea. I'll try and go fast since this episode's dragged a little. But, I wanted to end with what I spend a lot of my time thinking today is, what's next? Where's this all going? So, for me, and hopefully you guys as the listeners, it's as clear as day, right? China has all the leverage. They've built an industrial power over the last 40 years. And look at this. So I read the image here. By far, the most rapid shift in the world's economic center of gravity happened from 2000 to 2010, reversing previous decades of development. So the world's economy is now east. The world's economy is east. The world's factory is China. China dominates industrial production and military. They've won for now. And that's just a fact. And we're going through the phases of grief, where it's initially denial, and then you get angry, right? Eventually, we'll come to terms with it. But that's true. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, this is obvious. Buy Bitcoin. No wonder gold's going up. The $1971 is unwinding. The whole world reserve currency, U.S. treasuries are the collateral for the entire financial system. That's not going to happen. But then what? What world are my kids going to grow up in? What's past? Pull on the thread, right? I was spending time thinking about that. And really, my thesis that I kind of wanted to just rant about is I think the internet and Bitcoin become the new America. What do I mean by that? I mean that America was the most successful startup in human history. It was just an idea. It was an idea to have equal rights, and it was an idea to be free. It was an idea to support democracy. It was an idea to fight for freedom. It was a set of ideals, and it was a startup. You launch things, you iterate, you fail, you get better. But it was incredibly successful at being the house on the hill for the world. This image, the house on the hill, on the grassy hill. It's what you look up to and aspire to be a part of. That's the dream, the white picket fence, the happy wife, the kids, the financial security. America was the dream that we all aspired humanity to be. It's becoming not that anymore because the empire's falling. And that's okay. These things happen, right? Strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. This happens. The question is, what replaces the United States of America? Is it China? I don't want it to be China, right? So my point in these slides here, oh my God. Not working again. My point in these slides here is that China is a very antiquated, scary way to live and run society, in my opinion. China is So the world's economy has ran east. The world's warship building military has run east. U.S. says it can't keep up with China's warship building, Navy Secretary says. But China also has this great firewall, right? So they protect their citizens from new ideas. They don't support free speech. They don't support free markets. They don't support free ideas. Right? And so what you have, and what's really interesting, is China is remonetizing gold. So when people say, why is the gold price going up? Newsflash, because of China. This is the Shanghai gold warrants. Look at this chart. You guys want to know who's buying all the gold? China. So what's really interesting is that, or the way I'm starting to think about it, is China is this analog, authoritarian-like society. They don't support free speech. They don't support free ideas. And they're using this analog money, this gold thing that's already betrayed us. It's already failed us. And I think the internet and Bitcoin actually replaces America. That the new house on the hill, the new aspiring version of humanity that we all want to be a part of and we all want to see through, is no longer the West. It's no longer the United States of America. It's this like open network. Like I have on here, I'll flip to this slide. I have on here, I gave a talk in Washington, D.C. a few years ago to our nation's capital. Bad haircut, really bad haircut. But that's not the point. The point is Bitcoin embodies these American values. And American values are really human values that we all want. The North Star, the house on the hill. The Bitcoin and the internet has individual freedom. There's a freedom in coming, going, expressing, and opining. Equal opportunity, treating others without discrimination. Free market system. It's driven by supply and demand with no interference, Bitcoin is. Innovative in progress. It's open competition, natural innovation, fast progress. So I think what's going to happen is China's going to end up competing against the internet, not necessarily America. And it was really inspiring for me because it gave me this like this really profound sense of, this is why we have to fund open source developers. This is why we have to keep Bitcoin distributed. You know, the future of what's right and what's not, what we know as the West, it's the internet, it's Bitcoin, it's these technologies we're building. And so given all that context, I found this clip by Michael Howell really fascinating because he talks about what's going on in the market today and then also kind of this China versus the US, but he frames the US as it's digital versus analog. So let me play this for you. Sorry, I mean, these aren't fresh ideas as of this morning. I hope this is making sense, but I really think that this is the next chapter. We're going to enter this Bitcoin versus gold, analog versus digital, old versus new, the internet versus China, new ideas, free speech, equal rights, property rights versus authoritarian firewalls, right? Like no free speech, etc. Okay, let's listen.
Yeah, great question. Just to maybe before I answer that, just to pick up on something that Quinn said, I think another way to think about this whole regime of where Bitcoin and crypto fit in is that we're in the commodity phase of the cycle, the investment cycle right now. That's what's really moving, and that's synonymous with getting towards the peak. So I think all these things are kind of consistent. But where does Bitcoin fit in? I would say it's probably reflects about 1/3 tech stock and 2/3 commodity. So you're going to do better in Bitcoin than in tech if that's where your investment focus is. So think of it in those terms. Now, to come back to the stablecoin question, I wrote a book about 5 years ago called Capital Wars, which was trying to make the point that, whatever the skirmishes on trade, what really matters, the big battleground, is capital. Control of the world's capital and capital flow. And it's really between, obviously, no surprises here, America and China. And it's really about the development of a financial system, which is really going to effectively collateralize money in those two regimes. I think the US is moving more and more towards some sort of digital collateral in some form, whether that's stablecoin, repackaging treasuries through stablecoin or whatever. But I think that's the move. So digital is really ultimately collateralizing the dollar system. What China is doing is collateralizing its system through gold. And I think that's the alternative. So you've got these two very different financial systems. And what has really spooked China, in my view, I mean, I may be completely wrong, is stablecoin. The Europeans flagged this by saying, this is a great threat to our monetary system because Europeans can basically, disintermediate out of euros. We lose control and they go into the dollar system. But that's a big threat for China. So if you're a Chinese exporter accumulating cash, you've got a choice. You can currently put your money in the Western banking system. Well, kind of good luck there because you might get it sequestrated like the Russians did. Or you give it to domestic Chinese banks. Well, good luck there if you're like Jack Ma and fall out of favor with the PRC, then you've got a problem. So why not put it into stablecoin, which presumably has got some anonymity and you've got some protection there. So that may be a huge threat to the integrity of the Chinese financial system. They could see capital flight through that mechanism. And the one thing that the Chinese are really scared about is capital flight and losing control. So I think this has urged them into trying to make their financial system more robust all of a sudden. And this explains why you've had this big surge of liquidity going into the markets. They want to try and get rid of their debt problem. If you look at the parallels through history, if you've got a big amount of debt, the only way you get out of that is not by defaulting, because you can't, because that is the collateral in the financial system. You've got to devalue paper money. And that's what they're trying to do. So my view has been that they're trying to devalue the yuan against real assets, devalue against gold. So the yuan gold price is really driving the world gold market. And that's what we've got to start thinking about.
Fascinating idea. I know that was a bit of a longer clip, so hopefully you guys could stick through it, but very fascinating idea. And the idea is very simple. China is devaluing the yuan against gold. China is remonetizing on gold. And again, you have this analog, authoritarian, anti-free speech, anti-property rights type of culture. And then America is flirting with and kind of stumbling into what Michael describes as digital. And this is like one of the things that inspired me about this idea is I think America will find itself supporting Bitcoin. It's very obviously into stable coins. But obviously America is home to the greatest technology internet companies in the world. And I think what we know of as the West, I see someone in the chat saying, can we please not lose to China? The U.S. can't lose to China. I'm not saying the U.S. is going to lose. Listen, I'm an American. I'm not going anywhere, right? I'm not saying the U.S. is not losing anything. But I think the house on the hill, the North Star, the aspiring prosperous society isn't a nation state. It isn't a country. It's a network. It's the internet. It's Bitcoin. And I think in order to combat China, the United States will end up finding itself being internet maximalists, being Bitcoin maximalists, right? We've talked about the China disrupted red America. So the middle of America that wants their construction job, only has a high school degree, doesn't want to be college educated and be a lawyer and all this stuff. Their jobs are in China. Their beef is with China. And the internet and Bitcoin and AI is disrupting blue America. Everyone that's got college debt and they're a lawyer, they're now, or an engineer or an accountant or whatever, blue America, white collar, they're now getting disrupted by AI. And so blue America beefs with the internet, with Bitcoin. People like Elizabeth Warren, Jamie Dimon, they hate me, right? I've outperformed Wall Street by just sitting in my closet doing nothing. And then everyone in red America hates China. And so what we're finding is red America is actually becoming Bitcoin maximalists. And I really think that the future of this country and the future of East versus West is China versus the internet, if that makes any sense. I really think that that's where we're going. And so I had some thoughts because everyone was asking me, well, what's your take on gold? Should I buy gold? For the record, and everyone's like, Jack's supporting gold. I thought I'd never see this day. I own zero gold, okay? I own zero gold. I think that... I thought I froze again. I think that this is going to come down to We have to build a distributed, resilient system. Like this is what Balaji said. This is from Balaji. Unbelievable quote. He wrote, in other words, ideas are upstream of men. Code is upstream of drones. Private property is private keys, and the keyboard may yet prove on par with the sword. The creation of alternative societies is one model for how the internet may eventually balance out China. I really think that this is where we're going. And I think Bitcoin's going to outperform gold massively. And I think the West is going to end up relying on Bitcoin because it embodies American ideals. Bitcoin is the most American thing we have. Freedom of speech, property rights, freedom of coming and going, expressing, opining, distributed, secure. And I think that's the new frontier that the battles will be fought. And so I was in a group chat. These are messages from me in some group chat because people were asking this weekend about gold. And this is just one group chat, but plenty of people were asking me about gold. And I wanted to share, first of all, this video. This guy is melting down watches because...
We're scrapping AP, people. That's how high gold became. We're literally scrapping APs and making more money scrapping it.
So he makes more money scrapping the gold off of an AP, an Audemars Piguet watch, than he does selling the actual watch. Rather ruin the watch. And so my comments on gold were this. I said, my dad once told me, if metals get high enough, we can melt the kitchen down and eat with our hands. That's why we buy Bitcoin. With more demand, the world will always find more supply, except for Bitcoin. He always would make that joke. If they send the silver price high enough, let's eat steak with our hands and melt the silverware. Right? They're literally melting gold out of watches to sell it. That's obviously the gold supply that's being monetized. That's inflationary, right? I then went on to say, if BRICS wants to send gold high enough, didn't Elon say he'll go to get a bunch of gold from Mars? I don't want to be short Elon Musk in order to store my wealth. The problem with gold is you're short human ingenuity and human engineering. It's a bet that humans won't find a way to engineer more supply of gold. Bitcoin mathematically protects us from the best versions of ourselves. I view Bitcoin as a way to be long humanity in this way. Gold is a macro trade for now, but over a long enough period of time, it is short humans. It is a short position on humanity. In other words, in order for gold to remain scarce and store the world's wealth, we have to be bad at problem solving. Do you guys understand? And again, it's so analog. The gold monetary network is us humans. Bitcoin is fascinating because it is both a physical bearer asset and a monetary network. So it's a physical asset and a network that achieves transaction finality without trust. Gold doesn't have that. The gold network is us humans. So I said, the gold monetary network is us physical humans, which obviously doesn't scale. I can't walk my gold payment to London. I'm 5'8" and 150 pounds. The ocean would eat me alive, right? I have to give my gold to a bank or a government, which are the same thing nowadays, in order to move it without walking it across town. For gold to scale in today's world, it physically has to concentrate and rely on a level of trust that has already betrayed us. And so I think the next frontier, here, just my prediction, I'm incredibly bullish right now. I think this bull market is going to go well into 2026. I think the United States is talking about wartime financing, reindustrializing this country. Fiat as we know it is over. The trade war, the rare earth war, called the bluff of the US dollar. It's over. The next frontier to be fought is not the West versus China. It's the internet versus China. And Bitcoin's going to kill gold in performance. And I think the United States and the greater West is going to find it their greatest ally in combating and balancing the East, China. And the way I view it is really this one right here. I say the problem with gold is your short human ingenuity and engineering. Never bet against human ingenuity and engineering. We are tool builders, the best to ever do it. Guys, I don't want to be short Elon Musk to store my time and energy. I don't want to bet against humans being able to engineer and problem solve to find more gold. I don't want to do that. I want to be long humanity. I want to bet on us. And so I think gold is analog. I think it's antiquated. I think it's old. And I think China is wrong in the way that they treat freedom of speech and property rights and a lot of their cultural biases as a government. And I think we combat them not with war, not with missiles, not with tariffs. I think we do it with open source code, and I think we do it with distributed networks. I think we do it with the internet, we do it with Bitcoin, we do it with AI. And I think the world will end up having to choose, what interests you more? Because the other thing is China doesn't export ideas. They're going to have a very powerful state of around 1 billion people. But that's it. We as the internet, we can recruit billions of people to Bitcoin. We can recruit billions of people to AI. We can recruit billions of people to the internet. And I think really the war is won on, are people in the internet and from people of the West that are on the internet and building, open source developers, entrepreneurs, Silicon Valley, are they going to bend the knee and want to become a Chinese citizen? Or are Chinese citizens going to bend the knee and want to be members of the free open web? That's the war. That's the frontier. Are they going to store their wealth in gold that's concentrated at central banks and with their government? Or are they going to have their own private keys? That's the next frontier. That's my prediction. And I think Bitcoin's going to smoke gold in performance. Okay, this episode's running super long, so I'm going to speed this up. Strike. We're on fire. We're shipping a ton of stuff. This is a cool new asset. We're working on some new designs. This will just be my placeholder to run through my notes. But, the main thing for Strike in this quarter, so Q4, so we're almost done with October already, November, December coming up. It's about expanding our existing products. So I'm hopeful to have really, really good news about New York, Texas for lending, California. We should be, before the year's over, fingers crossed, obviously, because things could go wrong, but we should be available everywhere in the United States of America for lending. We're also, as I talked about, we're working on a line of credit product. I think a line of credit or like a secured Bitcoin credit card, I think that's going to be huge. Really productize the ability to live on zero, live on Bitcoin, productize a bank account that lets you live short dollar, lets you express best fiat debasement. Let you save in the best part of humanity, not the worst. So that's our Q4. We're going to have a ton of announcements coming out. And then in the interim, we literally ship 2 to 3 material products. Let's see. I have my notes here. We have, starting tomorrow, device management rolls out, send thresholds rolls out. Businesses will have wire transfers on Wednesday. So just a heads up, that don't ruin my announcement. That will start to roll out tomorrow. Price percentage change. So when you buy Bitcoin, the receipts that you get via email and inside the app will actually start to calculate the percentage change, how much you're up, how much you're down, how much Bitcoin has moved since you've been purchasing on DCA orders, smart order routing. So because of the liquidity and the spreads, and we want to be prepared, we're really improving that as well. We think that we are going to ship buying Bitcoin inside of BitKey, which is a very, very highly requested feature from you guys, in November. So we're cooking. Ask me all the questions you want about Strike, but should have New York, Texas, California for lending soon. And we're going to ship a ton of stuff, including maybe some really cool ideas around line of credit and card. Okay, for 21, here's our Bitcoin. We have proof of reserves. Our 43,514.12 BTC is sitting in escrow, always has been and will continue to do so. So you guys can go check that out. With the current Bitcoin price, we're just under $5 billion for the Bitcoin. We're still the 3rd largest corporation in the world. This tweet, I don't know. I thought it was hilarious. This guy, I love this guy. He tweets at me 10 times a day, every day. I honestly love it. I want him to be able to, I hope he's listening and he hears that the amount of admiration I have. I read all of his tweets. I can't respond to all of them, obviously. The SEC has rules for me right now, but you're hilarious. I appreciate all the support. You're the man. He tweeted, finally see the amended S4 for XXI. So if you guys want to go check that out, you can. Is Jack, Tether, Paulo, and Bo Hines. Bo is just going to be on the board, by the way. I saw some rumors that Bo is a direct, I don't know. Bo's amazing. But we nominated him just to join me on the board. Are we going to rug everyone, or will we surprise and impress? Time will tell. I would expect SoftBank, Tether, Mallers are not going to be dumping their own shares of a large operation like this. Too much reputational damage risk here. All the other Bitcoin Treasury related companies have nobody and grifters running them. This is the dream team. So I appreciate that. My response to this is, again, it's the same. We are a Bitcoin company. We don't consider ourselves a Bitcoin treasury company. We do have a massive Bitcoin treasury, and part of our business is adding to that. We think Bitcoin is the best money in human history, but really we want to be the best way to participate in Bitcoin in the capital market. So to us, that is Bitcoin treasury and an ability to grow Bitcoin per share, and also Bitcoin cash flow, actual Bitcoin businesses and products. And when the time is right, I'm really excited to tell you guys more about our plans there. But if you want to read our amended S4, and as far as are we dumping shares, listen, Tether, SoftBank, and I, there are lockups, and I can only speak for myself. No plans to sell ever. If it's up to me, I don't ever sell a 21 share ever. I mean, I think that there's some tax related things, but anyway, besides the point. No, all the partners that own pretty much like the vast majority of this company are long-term aligned partners. There is no, at least from the partners, and again, I can only speak for myself. So we are not a Bitcoin treasury company. We're a Bitcoin company. We want to be blue chip credibility with startup upside, give you that blue chip, SoftBank, Tether, leadership team like myself, credibility in the capital markets, but give you the startup upside of high growth, high margin, cash flow generating business lines that we can bring. We think we can be a mix of, what Coinbase and Robinhood have done as profitable fintechs and what MicroStrategy has done. I think people are going to be confused. Like, are they competing with strategy? Are they competing with Coinbase? And the answer is probably both or none of the above. We want to be like, if you want Bitcoin exposure through the capital markets, you should own some XXI. That's my goal in the immediate term. I think we're going to accomplish it. Okay. With that, I'll do a little bit of Q&A. This episode dragged a bit. Podcaster issues. I'm not a professional. Sorry. So I'll try and keep Q&A as short as I can to make sure that people don't wake up tomorrow and see like a 10-hour podcasting episode. Nobody likes a 10-hour podcast. So I'll go quick, catch up on the chat. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Thanks for everyone hanging with me. We've got about 2,000 live viewers on YouTube alone. That's crazy. So thank you guys for hanging with me. This one dragged a little, but I'm obviously very fired up. The next frontier is China versus the internet, baby. Let's fucking go. Okay, macro questions. Hi, Jack. Thanks for the amazing content. Why is it that when the U.S. was on the gold standard, it was still so competitive in manufacturing globally while having a very strong currency? Manufacturing is always going to be competitive. Think about it like anything else. It's how good are you at your trade? So, one of the many reasons China, or let's just talk about why China is very good at manufacturing now. Really low cost, really high quality, and they've been perfecting it for 40 years. And so I would say in a truly free market, everything's going to be hyper competitive. There's going to be competition on quality. There's going to be competition on cost. There's going to be competition on efficiency. And so right now, your iPhone is made in China and not in Manhattan because it's cheaper for Apple to build it in China. If they had to pay people to live in Manhattan to make iPhones with their hands, I mean, Jesus Christ, what's rent in New York? $5,000? The dollar's way too strong for that. There's way too much asset inflation in the United States. The quality of life, the cost of living is way too high. China is an incredibly weak currency, incredibly strong manufacturing, robots, drones, and labor is extremely cheap, right? And so I think the U.S. it's going to take time, right? That's why my prediction is at least 10 years. Like this whole nonsense of we're going in warp speed reindustrialization. We'll get it done by Q2 of next year. Fuck off. No, you won't. You'll get it done by Q2 2035. That's just my prediction. We spent decades doing nothing, sitting on our butt and printing money and virtue signaling that we were saving the world. So we have some catching up to do, which is fine. It's fine. We're going to get back to being America, and we're going to be open source, distributed network enthusiasts to combat a lot of what we disagree with out east. Can the U.S. just blockade Chinese imports? Countries heavily reliant on imports but doesn't have security of shipping lanes. I just don't think the U.S. has the proper leverage to actually combat China. One thing that I didn't include in here, but maybe I should have, is that the U.S. is only about 7% of Chinese business. And so If the U.S. just said, screw you guys, like we're not going to shop for you anymore, we're going to buy all of our stuff from someone else, which would be incredibly inflationary. The quality of our products would go down incredibly, right? So lesser quality, they'd be more expensive. China wouldn't really give a shit. Obviously, they'd take a little hit, but they're prepared for that. I mean, they've really de-dollarized in a very intentful way. So can the U.S. do that? Yeah. But I think then China says exactly what they did to Europe in the automobile industry. I think they literally do that to Amazon, Meta, Google, NVIDIA, and say, now what? Fuck you. And the U.S., the stock market goes down 20%. People are rioting in the streets trying to impeach whoever's president. I think that just ends really poorly. So I don't know. I think Trump came out today and said, we're going to find a deal. Don't worry about it. I guarantee you they'd find a deal. What do they call him? He's our peacemaker now because he doesn't have a choice. If I was the president, I'd be peacemaker. If fucking Rosie O'Donnell was the president, she'd be peacemaker. I mean, you don't have a choice. China's disarming everybody and you got to face the pain. Hey, Jack, with your concerns around China. Oh, shit. Let me blow up my face here. You guys can't even see me. There I am. Like my hat, Hard Money Club. You know that song? Pink Pony Club. Let's make a remix. Hard Money Club. I'm going to keep on dancing in the Hard Money Club. Hey, Jack, with your concerns around China owning major material bottlenecks of the U.S. military system, would you also suggest that it's similar within the Bitcoin ecosystem, chips, hash rate, etc.? I would say there's definitely a degree of risk, but Bitcoin is so resilient to where if China wanted to say, we're going to not give you the chips to manufacture your Bitcoin miners, and a bunch of hash rate falls off the network, then Bitcoin's difficulty will just go down. So Bitcoin is a self-referencing system. It's so secure. It can endure anything. There's no obstacle that Bitcoin can't climb and accomplish. And so for that reason, I don't worry about Bitcoin, and the free market will solve that. If China doesn't want to be in the Bitcoin mining business and there's an opportunity, then someone else will. And we saw that. China banned Bitcoin mining, and a ton of hash rate came to the United States. And I think what Jack Dorsey and Block are doing, they're getting into mining. I think the free market will solve all these things. But Bitcoin's so cool that if China like forcefully unplugged a bunch of miners, then okay, blocks would be coming in a lot slower, and then the next difficulty adjustment, it'll get easier to mine, and it'll incent the world to find hash rate elsewhere. So not a concern from me. Question, Jack, given China's significantly lower debt to reserves ratio compared to the United States, wouldn't a drastic gold repricing benefit China far more than the United States of America? 100%, that's absolutely right. So I showed at the end of this, China is the one engineering a higher gold price. It's China's the buyer. China is the persistent bid. It doesn't mean that American investors in the United States and there's a lot of gold buying right now. They added like 3 Bitcoins to their market cap in a week. Like gold is on a tear. $30 trillion asset, first time ever. So, but to your point, I mean, China has the most to benefit right now currently from gold being whatever it is, $4,500 an ounce, and performing like it is. It's part of their plan, de-dollarizing. They need to devalue the yuan against something. We've talked about this on the show. Devalue against what? You got to devalue against neutral asset. Bitcoin and gold are the real 2 global, accessible, neutral, scarce assets to devalue against. China's picking analog. Like they've picked their fighter. And it doesn't, I think gold will be around for a very long time, and Bitcoin's still very young. And so this kind of duel between Bitcoin and gold could take decades, could take longer than I'm alive. But that's what we're seeing, right? China's remonetizing gold right in everyone's face, 100%. And the data shows that. That's not a speculation. Can we actually deindustrialize and be the reserve currency without collapsing? No. I mean, I think the post-1971 dollar has reached its last chapter. It's over. We're on the brink of collapse. I mean, sovereign debt crisis level collapse. We have to reindustrialize. So I think it's obvious. I think it's simple. Jamie Dimon agrees with me now. Scott Besson agrees with me now. It's funny, all these guys that, oh no, we're going to Doge. We're going to pay for it with tariffs. They should have just listened to our show, man. They should have hung out with us, you and I in the chat. We would have been way better off. You guys think they're going to lower 50 basis points at the next Fed meeting? They might. I think Myron came out and said 25 isn't fast enough. The Fed's been late. And now you guys all know why. Reserves are scarce. There's liquidity problems in the market, and the level of financing to reindustrialize the United States of America is going to be insane. The level of inflation. I mean, they're talking about wartime financing. Like World War II, I think the Fed's balance sheet 10x'd. Like, can the Fed's balance sheet 10x? Are we going to get some form of yield curve control? Yes to all the above, probably, absolutely. I mean, the Genius Act and what they're trying to do with stablecoins is literally a version of yield curve control. So, yeah, would it surprise me if they cut 50 at once? Absolutely not. And remember, Jerome is out spring next year, and Trump's going to get his way, one way or the other. And that's why I think I don't want to call for super cycles, but I still think $250,000 to $1 million per Bitcoin this bull cycle is well within the cards. I think the way gold's performing, we could see a $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 Bitcoin in 2026, no problem. I mean, we could hit 200K before the year's over. I think the level of printing, currency debasement, and reindustrializing, I mean, rolling out of this fiat regime that we've created, shutting it down, I mean, we've never seen anything as scarce as Bitcoin. Price discovery with this thing is violent. I'm telling you guys that from experience. So whatever you think it's going to be, it's probably going to surprise you to the upside. How is America the most successful startup? I was agreeing with you up until this point. Damn, I lost you. No, I mean, I think it's a funny way and a relatable way to describe how at least I personally view the United States, and I think many other people do. It's an idea, like, frustrated Europeans migrated to the United States to create this version of society and humanity that they thought was the best, the dream, right? Wanted freedom of speech, property rights, freedom of coming and going, opining, everyone treated equally. Wanted to make sure that, the property that you've earned and owned through your time and energy is rightfully yours. Wanted a democracy. So, I mean, I think America was a startup in that way. It's something that, like, us humans created to live out our hopes and dreams for a future we wanted to be a part of. And I feel there's a very similar energy to Bitcoin now. Like, I think people are migrating to Bitcoin. Like the way people are people, Statue of Liberty, right? Like people migrating from, authoritarian regime or some form of state suppression or something bad, or they wanted opportunity, they wanted income, they wanted prosper, they wanted family. They come to the United States for that, like the land of opportunity, right? I think people now come to Bitcoin for that. People are coming to Bitcoin for hope, for opportunity, for equal rights, for property rights, and I think the internet gives it to people migrate to the internet for that as well. Like the internet and Bitcoin treat you better than your local government, treat you better than China could treat you. And so I think of it that way. I mean, maybe startup's the wrong word. I don't know. Sue me, but only if it's payable in Bitcoin. That's a direct quote from the HODL guy. What if China wins and they pick gold, but we, the U.S., chooses Bitcoin, but the world picks gold and we lose? I don't know how to answer that. At the end of the day, I don't think it's like, cue Saifedean Ammous, cue the Bitcoin standard. I don't think monetary competition is about like what the person in power chooses. That's not how it works. Monetary competition is the best money wins because of very specific properties. The one that's the scarcest, easiest to verify, easiest to move, easiest to store, right? I think Bitcoin's going to win because it's better at being money than gold. And we can make Bitcoin better. It's technology. Can't make gold better. Gold's going to come in the condition we found it. It's a rock. Can't add a feature. Can't integrate it in your app. Sorry. So I don't think it's up to anybody else. Now, as an American millennial that wants my country to succeed and be the America that, we all want it to be, and I want to have kids, I want to be a dad, I want to raise them here, all that good stuff, I'm going to encourage Bitcoin. I'm going to do this podcast every week. I'm going to fight tooth and nail to play my role in creating the world that I want to live in. But that's different than someone deciding. I think the free market will decide. The better money will win. It's only a matter of time. Okay, markets. Hey, Jack, I know this is a simple question, but how do I explain Bitcoin to friends/siblings who have not thought deeply about economics and money? What is a good analogy they might understand? That's a good question. I think for the sake of this episode being so long, I'm not going to get all long-winded here. I will say, it's really difficult to get somebody to learn something and change if they don't want to change. Michael Saylor always says Bitcoin is on a need to know basis. It's very easy to explain Bitcoin to someone if they need it, if they need to know. If they don't, it's very difficult for anyone to change in that way. It's very difficult to get someone to go in the gym and eat a cleaner diet unless they feel like they need to, for whatever reason, whether it's looks, disease, performance, whatever that is, right? But if someone was born, going to live to 200 years old and looks the best looking person in the world, it's very difficult to get them to sacrifice and go to the gym and not eat sugary shit. And so same thing. One of the cool things about Bitcoin is you don't have to protest and convince the world. You can just stay humble, stack sats, and the free market is going to figure it all out. I don't have to march outside Washington, D.C. like gold bugs. Get back on a gold standard, please. So I think people figure out Bitcoin when they have a need. And there's, of course, a way better answer for you of how I would explain it to my friends. Maybe I come back to this next episode because this one's already running up against 2 hours and I feel really bad. So I'm sorry about that. Could a government or major institution ever buy enough nodes or mining power to control or attack the Bitcoin network, or is that financially impossible? I mean, there is what's called a 51% attack. You can go look it up. But the way Bitcoin works, it's very fascinating, is let's say you have enough power to create a double spend in Bitcoin. So 51% attack the network. You could basically double spend a transaction to yourself. So you can take one transaction that, it's in the blockchain and you can reorder it to yourself. And that's it. And so what's fascinating is Bitcoin, and I'm greatly oversimplifying, but the point is Bitcoin uses game theory and economic incentives to create a desired outcome that's in its best interest. Meaning if you have that much power, you're actually better off just mining Bitcoin and making a fuck ton of money by mining every single block than you are to double spend this dude's pizza transaction last night. Because once Bitcoin, the network realizes that there's a double spend going on, then the network can actually start to refute the attacker. And so it's not like you can break Bitcoin forever. So you have a choice. It's if you are in a position where you have that much mining capacity, do you want to just make a bunch of money mining Bitcoin? Or do you want to try and fuck with the network and see if you get away with one transaction? And so the incentive actually is just whatever. If I want to make money, why would I attack it? I'm disincentivized to attack it. So there's a huge oversimplification, but it should broadly get the point across that Bitcoin doesn't really have an attractive threat model, which is Satoshi, smartest human of all time. Why do Americans need stablecoins? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. You're not. They don't need stablecoins. Americans don't need stablecoins at all. Stablecoins are for two people: the U.S. Treasury to finance the U.S. government. So you're, basically onboarding more people to U.S. debt. So the government is interested in it because they need more buyers of their debt, and there's none left. And so they literally are relying on people like Tether, legit. And for the people that are using Tether, they're not Americans. If you a stable coin, and Howell was talking about this in the clip I played, a stable coin is like an offshore bank. It's like the best user experience for an offshore bank account. You don't have to sign up for a Chase account. You can't it is an incredible experience to be able to just store dollars in USDT on your phone for someone in Nigeria, for someone in Turkey, for someone in Argentina. And so that is who it's for. It's not for Americans. I think the whole USDC and we need stable coins and Coinbase, it doesn't make any sense. I don't need it. I have a Chase account. Well, I did. I got thrown out of Chase, but I have another bank account now. Who cares? It doesn't matter. I don't think they're going to get adopted. We're going to push them outside of the United States as a country because they help finance our deficits. And people outside the country like dollars better than Argentine pesos. How can you blame them? Okay, Strike questions. And this time, I know that the president of Strike, who also runs our product, was going to make sure that I didn't say anything stupid, so I'm going to pull up her messages here. Hey, Jack, I would love to have Strike in Canada. Is this something that's possible soon? Love you, dog. Oh, I love you too. Yeah, we're working on Canada, actually. It's just a really slow and grueling process because of the regulation. So Canada's got a lot more rules. There's a lot more involved. So it's coming. It just takes a while. And I wish I could turn on Canada tomorrow. Unfortunately, I can't. So we're working on it, though. We'll get there. We'll get there, you know. God willing, I'm going to get it all done. It's just a matter of time. What would be the advantage of me taking out a loan on Strike versus my 401k? I mean, your 401k is not performing 50 to 60% compound annual growth rate. The amazing thing about borrowing against Bitcoin is you get to store your savings, your wealth, your time, your energy in something that's going up 50% a year on average. And by the way to understand that math, sometimes it's hard for people to compartmentalize how performant that is. 50% a year means it's doubling every year and a half. Guys, that means your net worth doubles every 18 months. Imagine owning that thing for 10 years. Your net worth is literally by orders of magnitude exploding. And so you want to find a way to own as much Bitcoin as you possibly can. That's the dream. Now, obviously, you don't want to go so crazy and add leverage where you get liquidated and you got to sell your house and you get a divorce because your wife can't believe you did that. Don't do that. But as much as you can reasonably, like I live my life, like how much Bitcoin can I get? It's the best way for me to store my life's work. And so why would I want a loan on Striker? I have 3 active loans right now. It's because I don't want to own the 401k. How performant is the 401k? Not 50%. So yeah. And okay, interest rates on Strike are 9.5%. Okay, but it's performing at 50. It's a fucking steal. When Strike loans Texas? Very soon. Extremely, extremely soon. You'll hear about that very soon. Question, will there be a separate app for business accounts so I don't have to sign in /out to switch? Not a separate app, but if you want to reach out to us, we're happy to walk you through how to manage both a personal and business account. We have thousands and thousands of businesses now. We've seen a huge explosion recently in business accounts on Strike, businesses that are buying Bitcoin for their treasury and then borrowing against it to finance business stuff. And then obviously these business owners have personal accounts too, and they own Bitcoin in a personal capacity. So we're happy to help with that. Hey, Jack, would it be possible to create pools/spaces in Strike so that we could separate our Bitcoin for saving for kids rather than moving it to other wallets? Yes, we actually are coming out with this product soon. We are working on it. It's one of the most highly requested is to create, you call it pools of capital, whether it's your kids, for holidays, for saving, your wife. We are coming out with that. I'm very excited about that because, you know, one of the reasons people use other apps besides Strike is because, well, okay, this other company is for my wife's account, this one's my kid's account, and my account's on Strike. And I would have everyone on Strike if I could, you know, have separate wallets. And so we are building that for you. My wife would like to use Strike, but since we share the same checking account, Strike says she can't have an account. What is that all about? That's a good question. I'll ask the support staff what that's all about. I will send him a message literally right after this. She should have an account. What the fuck is that? I agree. Question. Sorry about that. Question. How much are you and Strike leveraging AI? A decent amount. I think our engineering team is pound for pound one of the best in the world, one of the best in Bitcoin for sure. Speaking confidently, not cocky. And we integrate AI a pretty decent amount. Obviously, it's not our main focus, but AI has drastically helped us as a business, and it will continue to do so. If Strike does not get approval in New York, can we expect the lending product right away? Oh, does get approval. If Strike does get approval in New York, can we expect the lending product right away? If not, can we get an idea of an ETA? Yes. So by right away, I would say maybe a few weeks after we get approval. So if we get approval, we're going to launch our brokerage business first, and then we would look to set up lending like right after that. But I would say yes right away, and that it's, you know, it's not like we get approved, you can only buy Bitcoin and a year later or 6 months later. You know, it'd be a quick follow-up, but not literally on the same day. No, not allowed. Strike questions. If we use Strike to buy Bitcoin, is it my own Bitcoin as in I don't see any private keys or self-custody? Just wondering how that works. Yeah, so Strike is a custodial service. So when you store your Bitcoin on Strike, we're managing the keys and we're securing the Bitcoin, which there's pros and cons. Obviously my recommendation is hold your own keys, withdraw it off of Strike onto something you custody yourself, whether that's a cold card or a bit key or, any version of self-custody, private key, multi-sig, whatever. But there's all sorts of scenarios to where in which you want to hold some Bitcoin with us. And we do not give you a key. We have, geographically distributed cold storage, multi-sig, extremely secure way to store Bitcoin. Obviously, people say, do I self-custody Bitcoin? Well, I build Strike. Strike is Strike's private keys I manage those. So, anyway, it is not self-custody. It is custodial service. But for example, you want a loan, you put Bitcoin up with us, it goes in a vault, and we give you a loan, right? So that's how that works. Jack, does Strike have any calculators we can use to build different loan scenarios? I want to plug in BTC Kaggle while taking into account loan fees. We have a calculator on our website, but I don't know if it's that in depth and supports that use case. I also know that my colleague built a calculator. I don't know if it supports this either. Either way, send me a DM on Twitter or tweet at me, and I will link you to our website and to the tools that I have access to. And if we don't have something that solves this exact need, maybe we build it because it's a good idea. Question, can you guys add recurring buy option 1st and 15th, not just bi-weekly? We'll look into it. Sure. Why not? I mean, I think that's your paycheck. You can get paid in Bitcoin with Strike. So you can set up Strike where $500 of each paycheck goes to Bitcoin, or 50% of my paycheck goes into Bitcoin, or 100%. And so if you get paid on the 1st and the 15th, you could just do it that way. But I'm happy to look into it. Curious, a typical timeline for getting a Strike business account lit up. I like that, lit up. It looks like I'm through verification, but just waiting to set it up. Just eager and excited. Usually it's within 24 hours. If it is slow for you, sometimes, we go through these massive growth spurts. Shout out to you guys. Friday was our biggest day ever as a business, and our second biggest day was the Friday before that. So, we've been experiencing a ton of growth. I'm really proud of the team, and I'm really thankful to all you guys for supporting us and supporting me. So I really appreciate that. And so sometimes we go through these growth spurts where maybe we're a little understaffed on our verifications team. We're hiring for that now. So if there's a little delay, I apologize for that. But we crank them out. It should be 24 hours or less. And if that's not the case and you need help, just give us a ping. DM me on Twitter. We're here to help. Okay. Literally at the top of the hour. This is a little under 2 hours. That is insane. I apologize. For the real ones that stuck through this whole thing, much love. I appreciate you. Didn't want to make it that long, but I'm really bad at podcasting, so I fucked up somehow. Is what it is. Is what it is. Part of why you guys probably like this show is you're like, what the hell? This guy, what is going on? This closet, he's weird. Nothing really works, but he's passionate, and he's really right about rare earths. Am I right? All right. Love you guys as always. The show continues. Last episode got almost 40,000 views for a live stream, a Bitcoin live stream. We crossed 40,000 YouTube subscribers. So please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support. I seriously, from the bottom of my heart, I feel like I have the coolest job in the world. And I just don't want to let you guys down, whether it comes to Strike 21, this show. So keep letting me know how I can help you out, what we need to build, questions I can answer for you, and ways I can make the podcast better. I take the role I have in this journey that we're all on together very seriously. And I just am very thankful for the support you guys give me, and I don't want to let you down. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you next week. Rain, sleet, snow, or shine. We're going to try and record a podcast, whether we're professional or not. Much love. I'm out of here, ladies and gentlemen.